Okay, good. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about NewVoiceMedia, just to give you a bit of a background. But then also, more importantly, I'm going to talk about some of the innovation that we've been doing around analyzing customer conversations. We are a contact center solution. So obviously, voice of the customer, both metaphorically, but also physically, the voice of the customer is core to the kind of things that we do within Salesforce. So a little bit about our vision, first of all. Because contact centers are not a new thing by any means, and as we all know within our normal day-to-day lives, we are super empowered in terms of consumers, the power we have, the knowledge we have, the information we have, and the number of different ways that we can interact and communicate with businesses and other organizations that we work with is absolutely enormous. So the focus on dealing with that really intensifies significantly. Because we are all really empowered, we're very knowledgeable, and it becomes very obvious if we're dealing with organizations who aren't geared up for communicating and demonstrating levels of empathy and helping us in this very modern age of communication. So what is the role of the contact center in this bright, shiny new future? Ever since I've been working with contact centers since sort of 1995, there's been a big push of self-service. The voice is dying, voice is going away, we're all going to move everything online now with mobile devices and everything else. It hasn't happened. We still will always try as consumers or in our business lives to fix our problems through online channels. But when those things don't happen, or we need something which is perhaps exceptional, we will pick up the phone and speak to someone. And that drives us down this particular route and gives us an indication as to why, despite having this very rich and personalized and immersive environment, voice is not going anywhere. In fact, that when we look at the statistics that we gather through the number of minutes and the voice conversations that are happening coming through our platform, it's increasing, and it's increasing not just because we're adding customers, even the customers who have been with us for quite some time, their volume and their usage of minutes on our platform is increasing. But the challenge is that the typical experience that we get in contact centers has not changed for a very long time. We've had incremental elements of technology that have moved us forward, but fundamentally, if you're trying to get good service, or you're trying to make purchases, or you're dealing with people who are calling you, a lot of this experience has not changed for a very long time. And it really is time, with the driving technology and everything else, that we can do a much better job. Because fundamentally, through contact centers, typically that's the only time that you as a business will talk to your customers. In many online businesses, in many B2B or face-to-face environments, the telephone and the voice conversations that we're having are the primary point of human contact. Okay? So it really is the key to building that long-lasting and significant customer connection. And ignoring voice is something that is really quite perilous to do, as we've seen through many examples of people doing that. There's been lots of research done around how we make people feel when we have interactions with them. This is something from Forrester, where they started their research thinking that whether or not your experience was successful was down to three kind of things. It was down to the goal. Did you actually do what I wanted you to do? How much effort did it take for me to do that? How many times did you transfer me? How hard is it to go through IDMV? How many emails did I have to send? How many tweets did I have to send? Whatever it would be. And then also, how did you make me feel afterwards? Okay, it could have been, you could have helped me achieve my goal. You could have solved my problem. It could have been super easy for me to do that. You picked up the first time. You were able to give me, fantastic first call resolution. But actually, you didn't really make me feel great about it, or the overall experience didn't make me feel great because of the impact of the product problem or whatever it would be. And what's interesting is that the weighting of these three factors is not linear. So when Forrester first did their research, they thought it was sort of a third, and a third. But actually, it's the emotional element, how you made me feel during that interaction, after the interaction, the reason for having that interaction, needing to have that interaction, which holds the much higher weight and drives my overall satisfaction more directly. So how do we tap into that? How do we kind of understand some of those things? Because we can all measure, you know, the goal. Did we close the opportunity? Did you close the case? That's super easy. We can do that in Salesforce all day, every day. The effort. How hard was it? How many tweets? How many activities? How many calls? How many emails? We can measure those things as well. It's much harder to understand, measure, and influence the emotion because a lot of that happens during the call. It happens during the conversation, which if you're, you know, most organizations, depending on the regulatory and, you know, jurisdictional requirements of the region that you're in, that call will have been recorded. But the problem we see, and again, this is data that we've taken from our customers, is that even though a lot of organizations record their calls, less than 1% of those calls are actually listened to, which is astonishing, considering that is the point at which you're communicating with your customers. So the contact center becomes super important. So a tiny little bit about NewVoiceMedia before I show you some of this groovy product. We're a Salesforce Platinum partner. We've been a Platinum partner for quite some time. We really hooked the wagon onto Salesforce probably 6 or 7 years ago now. You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. What an amazing decision to make. Yeah, we chose Salesforce. Awesome. It wasn't, you know, such an obvious thing to choose at that time. There's still a lot of friction with contact centers, and it's still in place today. Who owns the contact channels? Who owns the customer? All these kind of things. And, you know, you look at Genesys and Avaya and Cisco and some of these more traditional contact center providers, and they go head to head with Salesforce over who manages inbound email, who manages tweets, who manages Facebook interactions, and all of these sorts of things. Whereas we made the decision of we're terrific at voice. We will do voice. We will do sophisticated routing and treatment plans for customers who are calling you as an organization. And we will make use of Salesforce's amazing desktop to deliver that interaction to the salesperson, to the contact center agent, whatever it would be. We have about 720 people, customers worldwide. Everything that's shaded dark blue, we have customers and we deliver voice into those regions. We have data centers scattered around the globe as well. North America, Europe, as well as APAC and Singapore. And we have about 400 people worldwide. And we're growing. These are the kind of customers who we deal with. Big blend of people from, you know, SMB businesses, mid-market businesses, and enterprise businesses. Some very big names on there that surely you will all recognize. People like Burberry, Vodafone, Cisco. You know, Vodafone and Cisco, good examples of people who have their own contact center solutions, but actually selected NewVoiceMedia. And the platform we deliver is very, very similar and architected in a very similar way to the way that Salesforce is, in terms it's a SaaS environment, multi-tenant, no downtime or anything like that, as well as delivering a single platform irrespective of the kind of contact center experience you're delivering, whether it's inbound sales, outbound sales, service, and so on. We deliver everything consistently and offer a whole variety of different things linked directly into the sort of service or sales cloud environments or platform environments as well. We do have customers who make use of other Salesforce desktop solutions like Financial Force and some of those other kind of areas, the App Exchange partners, and we deliver equally into those environments as well. So, any questions? I'm going to sit down then. Let me show you what NewVoiceMedia looks like first of all, and then I'm going to show you what the innovation that we've done around Conversation Analyzer, which is taking one of the things that I talked about there in terms of breaking down those call recordings in order to tap into that data set so that we can use it for gathering a whole different category of insight with our customer interactions. Okay. Good. Everyone see that okay? Yep, awesome. I'm just going to refresh my screen so the demo fairies don't bite me. There we go. Okay. Hopefully you all recognize this as Salesforce. This is Salesforce Lightning. We work equally well within Salesforce Classic and Service Cloud, the console, and any kind of Salesforce environment. Wherever there is a phone number field, we can do click to dial, we can do inbound call routing, and we have a very sophisticated routing environment that plays very well with omni-channel so that we can have shared presence understanding and synchronize some of those things. Ensuring that you can be a person who's dealing with online chat or with emails, and then flip-flop or blend your voice conversations depending on the kind of workload that you're working on right now. So that's one of the kind of key things that we deliver as part of our solution, is a very close integration with Salesforce so that we can provide that very clear experience, which to a lot of people, especially when we go out and show the technology to people, they'll kind of look at it and go, well, which bits are you? Because it is a very, very seamless experience for the contact center agent. So we sit down here in the utility bar. This is our sort of call control environment where we do all of the call control aspects. I'm just going to make a very simple click to dial from here. Just going to dial my cell phone. You'll see everything start to light up and work. I'm just going to put myself on mute. There we go. Accept the call. Put myself on mute, and we're talking happily to the customer. So very straightforward so far. If this was an inbound call, we would have popped the record. You know, I could have popped a case. If someone had a case open, I could have popped an opportunity. If we were dealing with an account who had a particular opportunity that was live at that point in time. Lots and lots of flexibility to deliver a very, very rich and efficient experience to the contact center agent. So they're not searching, they're not diving in, they're not alt-tabbing and moving between a whole bunch of different environments, trying to help the customer. Okay, the integration with Salesforce is such that everything is popped. We direct everything, whether it's standard CRM objects, whether it's custom objects, all of those things are fully part and baked in as part of the product set. So I've got my control surfaces over here. I can drop voicemails. I can, do all the kind of things that you'd hope and expect from a contact center. I can release the call. I can transfer. I can consult with a colleague, and I can help the customer as best I can. You'll also notice that I'm recording the call. Okay, the little red button is lit up here. Again, depending on sort of European legislation, as well as when we work with customers in North America, you are able to record calls between different geographies, but in some cases you need that permission. You need to ask permission to record the call and make sure people are aware of these things. And we can control and automate a whole bunch of those things. So very prevalent in North America, where lots of different states have, you need two-party, both parties' permission to do call recording. So again, we can make that control automatic, so the agent actually doesn't even have to ask for some of those sorts of things. Again, just really trying to have those little incremental benefits so people have a good working experience. So I'm on my call. I help the customer. Once I'm done, I can simply hang up. Hang up my phone over here. That's good. I go into wrap-up mode, and everything is done, and I can simply just make myself ready, or I will automatically go back into wrap-up. So if I now come across here and just have a look at my activities. So we deliver the voice. I can do that through a browser. I don't need, a hard phone. I can deliver to the cell phone. I can deliver through WebRTC. I can use a headset and mic. Really, really straightforward for spinning up contact centers super quickly. You need Salesforce. You need a browser. You need an internet connection with a reasonable quality of service. You can deliver voice over those things. So home workers, all of those kind of things. It all works very well. But the key part of the integration is that we push a ton of our data into Salesforce. People want to have that single Salesforce look and feel. They want to ensure that they've got a single reporting environment within their Salesforce system. You can look at the outcomes of calls very easily. I know that, Darren called this guy twice. He then progressed the case. It's now sitting with tier 3, and I understand everything that is needed and is happening to ensure that that progresses successfully. What I don't know is what actually happened during the call. I can see if I drill in to this activity record that we have pushed a whole ton of information onto here so that it is reportable. You can understand what happened, how many calls were made, and all of those kind of things here. So I've got the start time, the end time, whether it was an outbound or inbound call, the call duration, and all of those sorts of things. We also push a lot more data if it's an inbound call. So how long you spent through the IVR, what routes you went through the IVR, what decisions you made, or what decisions we made for you. Because obviously the key thing is providing that super customer experience, and having people press 1, press 2, enter your case number, yada, yada, yada. That's all great, but wouldn't it be even better if you didn't ask me any of that, because actually you know it already. You know that I've got a case open, you know who I am from my cell phone number, you know that I'm working and I've got an opportunity going at the moment. So guess what? Please route me to the guy I've already spoken to. We have all of that information in Salesforce, and we can use all of that in our routing logic to ensure that the right person gets that right call at the right time. So let me just come back to my customer record. This is my simple activity that we've just recorded. And even that simple piece of data gives you a wealth of information for reporting. Okay, so we did 10 calls today. I closed 6 opportunities, 4 cases. I spent this much time on the phone. We transferred calls these number of times. All of this stuff is a wealth of information, and it's a massive step up to a lot of people in the contact center space, because actually they don't even have any of that. One set of information is sat in Salesforce, and the other set of information is sat in the contact center system. And it's an it's a management information consolidation exercise to get those two things together, to blend the contacts together so you can do that kind of consolidation. And who has time for that? Right, let's do it all together. Let's make life simple and make it really, really straightforward. So let's have a look at a call that we did previously. Exactly the same kind of information. This is actually an inbound call. But if I have a look here in my call details, what we'll see is the actual information that we gleaned from the call itself. So this is what we've pulled out from our conversation analyzer. So you saw earlier that I was recording the calls. We record them in stereo so that I can see the customer talking and the agent talking. I have all of the information around the time in the IVR, the queue time, the talk time, and all that sort of stuff. But it starts to get interesting when I look at the call time breakdown, because I can get an indication of how much time the agent was talking, the sales guy, the service person, how much time the customer was talking. You know, we should be striking a good balance depending on it's a sales environment or a service environment or the kind of problems that you're trying to solve. So this gives me a quick early warning to say that actually the etiquette or the empathy or whatever it would be on that conversation was a little bit too geared either towards the agent or the customer, or it was the customer was talking all the time, they were shouty, everything else, you know, they're pretty angry. As I scroll down here, we can then start to see where things are broken down a little bit further. So I have a full call transcription here. So if I just play the call, it's a staged call. I'm going to say that right now, but you get the idea.
Hi, welcome to customer services. Can I confirm your full name, please?
Hello, my name is Dave.
That's great. Thanks, Dave. My name is...
So you get the idea. So what we've done is provide a full text transcription of that conversation on both sides of those pieces. And once we've got that text, that's kind of the first step, okay? We can search it, it's available in Salesforce, I can index it, I can do all of those kind of things. I can start to look at the kind of conversational nuances and everything else. But once I have the text, we can go a lot further. So you can start to see the kind of categorizations that we've got at the top here, where we've defined a whole bunch of high-level categories around the key themes that we're interested in picking up as part of these conversations. And for our customer implementations, we define these with the customers. It's part of the sort of training that we do for the analytics engine. But if I break that down a little bit further, we've got a whole bunch of subcategories in here. So under politeness, we've got things like general courtesy, closing remarks, greeting, did I ask you permission when I was going to put you on hold, as well as things like compliance, my communication skills, my call effectiveness if we're in a sales or a servicing environment, as well as things like, you know, showing professional empathy and those sorts of things as well. And they're colorized, and I can actually see them here on the actual timeline itself. So I can see that the phrases like, I understand, I'm really sorry, these are the phrases that we're picking up that drive that kind of professionalism or that empathy score. So that gives us a massive level of insight, because before doing that, you know, guess what? People have to sit and listen to these calls. You will have a team of QA people who are doing that, you know, 8 hours a day. Excuse me. It's a real bind. And what's interesting about the categorization is that we customize those things on a per customer basis. We've got customers in the medical field, and if anyone says the word cancer, that is, you know, quite a little alarm bell that kind of goes on, and that causes different levels of escalation that happen. So pulling those phrases out is really important. Now, once we've got that data inside Salesforce, it then means that we can start to do some very interesting things. So what I've got here is an analytics dashboard, Einstein Analytics, and I can blend the sort of outcome data from Salesforce with some of the emotive data that we're driving from the conversation analyzer. So I can see that, excuse me, from all of the opportunities that we closed won today out of the 700 calls, 200 of them we closed, we had 700 calls, only 200 were closed opportunities. Okay, that's good. We did quite well today. Show me the ones where we had positive sentiment. So sentiment, can be on either side. The agent felt good about it, the customer felt good about it. We can have a nice range. We can start to put in, once we've got the text, the sort of way forward is things like NLP programming, using Einstein capabilities to do text, different elements of text categorization, pulling a text down from a 30-minute conversation into a one-sentence summary, all of those sorts of things, all becomes part of the data set that we can use to report and gather insight. Now, once we've got our categorization, I'm kind of happy that we've closed like 50 calls. We think the sentiment was good overall on both sides of the fence, but actually, I want to know where we didn't hit our compliance statements. So we've all been on calls where, can I read you the T's and C's? These are the terms, these are the things in terms of compliance. We all have those things that we have to deal with. However, if they're not talked about, if they're not mentioned on any calls and conversations, it puts a huge amount of risk within any kind of financial services organization, for example. So showing me all the calls where none of the compliance statements were made highlights an enormous gap for me in terms of where I might have potential risk. We've closed some great opportunities today. However, I've got 45 of those opportunities out of the 200 where no compliance statements were made. So this opens up a huge amount of data from what has been in the past a complete black hole. Unless you're listening to all of those conversations that have been recorded, and remember it's less than 1% of things that get listened to, all of this information and data is lost to you. So we're really opening up a whole different category of data for our customers so they can get an enormous amount of insight from their calls. That's all I was going to show you today. If there are any questions, I'd be delighted to take them. I can see you at the back, getting me out. Yeah. Thank you, guys.